I'd really like to talk about dummy Hoy. Most say dummy means stupid or not intelligent, but really that is because he couldn't speak. His actual name was William Ellsworth Hoy, but he did refer to himself as Dummy Hoy. So I've been doing research on him with the council. I joined and also with AAAD, American Association of Athletics of the Deaf. And I'd like to show you my business card. My business card doesn't have a picture of me. It actually has a picture of Dummy Hoy on it. The reason being, you know the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words? I've converted that to mean that a business card is worth 1,000 words. I've done some research on him, and in 1989, I found something interesting. I was born 1 month after he passed away. Hoy was born in 1861 and he died in, he was born in 1862 and died in 1961. He was 99 and a half years old. He passed away in December and I was born in January. He was the 5th deaf person to play baseball, but the first to play professionally. He never learned how to talk, but he was extremely articulate with written English. In all my research, it shows that he was really intelligent and could communicate quite well writing. His baseball game, at the time there was no signs for the umpire when he would call foul or ball or strike. When Hoy joined the minor leagues in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and they were playing the game, his stats were not that great. They were .209. And that day he realized he would either be traded or just eliminated from the team. So he went and talked with his manager and he said, I need to be able to communicate better. Is there a way that you could learn? I could teach you some signs, some terminology that is baseball specific. And the coach was willing to do that. So they came up with a few signs for bunt and foul, pop fly, different things so that they could communicate and understand one another. So when Hoy was at the base, at home field to hit the ball, instead of trying to figure out what the umpire, he was still struggling with what the umpire would say. And his average continued to plummet. So he discussed more with his manager, trying to figure out a better system for that. And in 1887, he spoke with his manager and he figured out. So his manager was able to sign to him and let him know things such as he would sign bunt. So Hoy would be ready at the base. He would see him and he would know strike one. And he'd be ready. Then he would look at his team again. Hoy knew what to do. As long as he was able to see his manager, he would know what to do. And then he would bunt the ball. They were able to communicate with each other. Everyone else was really confused because they were used to yelling what to do to one another. They would yell, and instead it was silent. There was no vocal communication. Later, he changed over to the Washington team and entered the pro level. He was the first deaf professional baseball player, and he set records. He had 82 steals, and to this day, that record still stands. Nobody has yet beat that. Many things happened those first 2 years that he played, 1886 and 87. He played in outfield. And back then, remember back then, people rode their horses in order to come to the games. There was no fence set up, and people would come to watch. They would leave their horses out in the field. So one time he was chasing after a ball and he didn't know what to do. He was right next to a horse. So he actually jumped on the horse. It might have been a mule, I'm not sure. But anyway, he jumped on the horse and caught the ball. The umpire called it an out. And, everyone disrupted with anger and arguments. But the umpire said, even though he jumped on a horse, the ball never touched the ground, so it was a fair catch. He played from 1886 to 1903. And at that time, there was, back in those days, the baseball jersey had a front pocket. So one time, Hoy hit the ball really far out into the field. And the man in outfield caught the ball, but it bounced off of his mitt and actually went into his front pocket. Once again, the umpire called that it was an out, and everybody started to argue about it. But the ball never touched the ground. There was a lot of complaining about that. Hoy himself just let his manager take control because he couldn't argue the point. So they continued to discuss it. And from then on, a pocket was banned from the baseball jersey. Who knows if to this day there would still be a pocket there if that hadn't happened, but it was banned from then on. Hoy played with many famous players. He played with Pittsburgh Hannes Wagner, which was an extremely famous baseball player. And he also played with a famous manager. He played for a famous manager, Connie Mack. He and Hannes learned how to communicate with each other. They would send signals to one another to understand each other in the game. The manager and the players would touch their body in various places in order to send signals of what to do. And that way they were able to understand each other. Hoy would understand if he needed to hit a pop fly or what exactly the coach wanted, if there was clear communication. While the other teams were yelling things such as steal the base, steal, 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 which alerted the team and let everybody get closer to their base and be more aware of what was going to happen. Because of their great communication with each other silently, it really caught on. Some of the other teams started to copy that, and it influenced them. They started to do the same thing using hand signals. We don't know precisely when hand signals came about. There is still some debate, but we do know for sure Hoy would play in the outfield. There would be a left fielder, right fielder, and center, and many times they would run into each other trying to catch the ball. And sometimes they would drop the ball if it was they were trying to get it, but they weren't successful in doing that. Because Hoy couldn't yell for the ball, he had to come up with a way to signal to them when he wanted to catch it. So he did a simple wave. It just looked like nothing to anyone else, but they were able to understand that, yes, he was calling for the ball and wanted to catch it. He also told his teammates, whenever you hear my shoes tapping, if you hear that tapping signal, don't be afraid. I'm just letting you know I'm back up in case you drop the ball. That actually really helped them. They really liked it because if for some reason they weren't able to catch the ball, he was able to back up and catch it. He also had a lot of respect for the umpires. He would very politely talk to them and explain his situation, how he couldn't hear, and if they wouldn't mind using hand signals to let him know fouls, strikes, and balls. And they would always be compliant and work with him. The umpire would use his right hand for strikes. And it really saved a lot of time. He didn't have to look at the coach and then to the umpire. He was able to just tell immediately from the ump what was being called. So it could be strike one or ball one. Ball was used with the left hand. It made communication easy. And he would know exactly what to do because of the calls. He was really considered a champion in the World Series games. There's a lot of debate about the World Series. They began in 1901 or 1903. There's some debate of when it's officially, but it was definitely a championship game in Chicago, with Chicago. It was the first time that they had bases loaded, and he was the first one in the history of American League to hit a grand slam. From then on, it did occur, but he was the first one to actually do it in a real live game. Many of the leagues at that time fell apart. There were old leagues that didn't last, but he was part of the AG League. Also, a little bit about his education. In 1882, he graduated. 1862, he began school, and he graduated 72 to 79, which was only 7 years instead of the average 12 years that it takes to gain an education. He attended the Ohio State School for the Deaf. Also, his father taught him to always respect his elders no matter what, even if it was hard to understand them because they had mustaches or they mumbled or it was difficult to read their lips. He emphasized to Dummy Hoy to always show respect and never be rude to them. He kept a card in his pocket that he would show them that would explain to them that he was unable to hear. He was always polite.